Hello, my name is Justin Loiseau. I'm 22 years old and I'm a student at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, and at Chapel Hill I double major in environmental studies and economics. Now, today I'm going to tell you about a time when I wasn't in Charlotte, I wasn't in Chapel Hill, I wasn't in North Carolina, and I wasn't even in the United States. Instead, I traveled to Israel to live on a small kibbutz right about here and work at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. Now, I'll explain in a bit exactly what that means, but if you can see on this map, you can know where Israel is. It's in the Middle East, but it's just north of Africa and just east of Europe. Now, kibbutz is a Hebrew word, which is one of the languages that's spoken in Israel, and in Hebrew it means collective or gathering. So a kibbutz is a place where maybe as little as 10 people, or up to 500 or even 1,000 people, decide to go and live together and live off the land, so they perform mainly agriculture. Kibbutz first started in about the 1900s, and then became very, very popular in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. And currently there are about 25 kibbutzim in Israel, and Kibbutz Ketela, right here, was the kibbutz that I was living on, where I worked on this environmental institute in this area of the kibbutz. Now, three other things to notice on the map. One is that this is the border with Jordan. It was a border created after the Yom Kippur War, and it clearly defines by the United Nations which country is which. Now, over here is another set of mountains, and over here is another set of mountains. And literally, there are 2 kilometers between here. And the reason for that is that this is the start of the Syria Rift Valley that goes all the way down through the Middle East and all the way down through Africa, even down to Malawi in that area. And it's one of the clear delineators of the tectonic plates and their movement below. Now the kibbutz is in the middle of a desert, which means it doesn't get much rain at all. But as you can see in this picture, there's a lot of green. Well, the reason for this is that they're able to extract water from below. Now this water isn't perfect. You can't drink it straight out of the tap because it's brackish water. Does anyone know what brackish water is? It's a mix of salt water and fresh water. And so they use a desalinization plant to be able to get all that nasty salt out of the water so that you can drink it just like you drink fresh water straight out of a lake or a mountain river or something like that. So as you can see, this water is used for more than just drinking. And all of these trees in here are farmland, and a lot of the trees just right here are date trees. Has anyone ever tasted a date before? It's not a date you go on with someone, it's a type of fruit, and it is delicious. But date farms aren't the only way that kibbutzim make money now. They've had to expand their different ventures as agriculture becomes more and more difficult, the people in the kibbutz become older, and it makes more sense to try out different businesses. This is an example of one of those businesses, and it's actually algae that's growing in all of these different tubes. Now, if you can tell, there's different colored algae here than there is here. That's because this algae that's red is matured, and it's that deep red color that makes this algae so expensive, because they'll sell it to different cosmetics companies to use in perfumes, and they'll also sell it to different salmon farms across the world to make their salmon look more red. Here's a picture of that red algae that you saw in the pipes. Now, one bag of this, approximately a kilogram, will sell for $10,000. Another income-generating activity is cows. Our kibbutz had over 500 cows, and each of them provided milk that got sent off every single day to different parts of Israel. Now there were also some animals hanging around the kibbutz that weren't necessarily for sale or actually contributed anything other than a fun ride sometimes. Does anyone have any idea what animal might be pictured in this photo? I'll let you know in the next slide. It's a camel, and there is quite a backstory to this camel. Now, the way that this camel originally came to live on the kibbutz is when, about 20 years ago, another camel walked all the way across the Jordanian mountains, down across the international border, into Israel, and into the kibbutz. This kibbutznik saw it and said, "Well, we don't have any camels," and realized that it must have been from Jordan. So he traveled with the camel back across the international border, back across the Jordanian mountains, found its owner, and upon receiving it, the owner was so grateful and so proud of this man for having honestly returned his camel that he decided to give him two younger camels to keep forever and have them live on the kibbutz. So that's where this one comes on, and it's a popular activity during any birthday for younger children to be able to ride the camel. Now, this animal is also on farms around North Carolina, and as you can probably tell, it's an ostrich. Ostriches are actually native to this area in the Arava Desert, the Negev Desert in the Middle East, and now they're kept on preservations in different areas to be able to show people visiting a national park, tourists, to be able to show them what animals used to exist in the area. The Arava Institute for Environmental Studies is another way that the kibbutz has allowed itself to grow and expand. In this picture, you can see the Arava Institute up in the upper right corner, along with a solar power garden, all here. Now, the institute itself is very interesting. It is a place for research, but it's also a place for environmental learning. There are students from Palestinian territories, from Jordan, from Israel, and from international countries all over the entire world who come together for a semester or for a year to get a degree or maybe even just a study abroad experience learning about environmental leadership and peace building in the Middle East. Nearly every morning, as the sun just started to poke its head up above the mountains, I would make my way up to the top of this mountain to look out over the kibbutz and have a little time to think to myself. It really is beautiful from all the way up here. Now, as you saw in the previous picture, it kind of seems like there's the kibbutz, a nice green compound with lots of buildings and trees, and then the desert, an uninviting enemy territory where no one is allowed to go because if you go out there you die from thirst or starvation or lose your way or something like that. But that's actually not the case. There are tons and tons of hiking trails all throughout the desert, and if you look closely, there's actually a lot of life. Now, this is an example of when a kibbutznik, a person who lives on a kibbutz, has actually gone out into the desert and built his own house, maybe for a retreat place, maybe to go with friends sometimes, to have a fire, something like that. And these little houses out in the desert are all called zulas. When I arrived at the institute, they told me there were 9 total, and I tried my hardest to find them all, but I only found 7 by the end. Here's the inside of a Zula, and as you can tell, it probably took a while to build. It has a gas stove, 2 mattresses, and a thatched roof. So this was basically my backyard for the entire time I was at the kibbutz and studying at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. And although, like I said, it seemed uninviting at first, I'm going to show you a few pictures of the different animals that I found while hiking in the back of the Arava Desert. Now this is a very interesting picture because this is actually a new species of spider that was only discovered a month before I got to the kibbutz, and the only place where they know that it exists in the entire world is the Samar sand dunes in the Arava Desert. Unfortunately, these sand dunes are also one of the excavating spots for construction companies in Israel that want to use their sand to be able to make concrete and buildings. So, while at the kibbutz and while at the Environmental Institute, we launched a huge campaign to try to get them to protect the Samar sand dunes so that this cool little spider would be able to survive. Now, one funny note, when we were taking pictures of this spider, one girl asked, "Well, is it poisonous?" And scientists, of course, having discovered only a month ago, said, "We don't know. Want to find out?" These are ibex, and they're the official animal of the Israeli National Park System. Ibex are great, not only because they look incredible and are fun to see out in the wild, but also because all the trails in the desert are usually trails that the ibex have stomped out. So whenever I'm going through rocky terrain, I just have to look for a stomped out trail, a tiny game trail, and be able to follow it, and know that I'm traveling on a place where ibex have traveled for thousands and thousands of years. During my first bit of time living on the kibbutz, although almost everyone speaks English, I felt the need to try to learn a little bit of Hebrew to be able to speak a language that was more comfortable for the people that I was living with. Because how would you like it if, even though you speak Spanish, everyone just spoke Spanish to you and you never got to use your English? Or, if you just speak Spanish, everyone only spoke English to you and you never got to use your Spanish. So here I am with all my different pots and pans trying to learn Hebrew, and as you can tell from this right here, the writing is a little bit different, so it doesn't use the same Roman letters that we do. Now, one of my favorite words in Hebrew is also one of the most common. It's shalom. And the reason I like shalom is because it means three things. It means hello, goodbye, and peace. So it's a very comfortable word. Can everyone try to say it? Shalom. So the desert may hold some life, but it definitely can't hold human life under normal circumstances. So when Israel first started to build kibbutz and started to farm the desert, they had to come up with a special new system that would allow them to use water as efficiently as possible. Does anyone know what this system is called? It's called drip irrigation, and it was developed in the 50s and then advanced in the 60s. And it's basically a pipe system that allows just drips of water to escape using this little system right here. And it allows water to be used as efficiently as possible to wet different plants. But one of the greatest things about living on this kibbutz at this environmental institute wasn't just that I was learning about science or experiencing nature. It's that I was learning about science and experiencing nature with all of these incredible people from all over the world. And we could learn from each other's cultures and our ways of learning and be able to understand better how we could come to an agreement and how we could come to different resolutions about how to save our environment in the years to come. One of my favorite nights was Culture Night. It was a chance for anyone and everyone to get up and present some aspect of their culture to the rest of the community. Now, there are about 45 students in all each semester at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies, so there was quite a mix of different places. We had representation from all over the Middle East, we had representation from South America, we even had someone teach us Japanese origami. But the true time for celebration was, for the first time in 25 years, when it started pouring rain in the desert. No one knew what to do. The kibbutz was so excited, and so, after making sure that we had made final preparations for all the buildings so that there was no flooding, we partied. And, the morning after, everyone put on some warm clothes and we headed out into the desert to see what it had become. River channels that hadn't held water for 25 years were now flowing with it, and waterfalls started to come down the sides of cliffs. And while jumping in water and swimming around might seem like a natural thing for any of your dogs to do where you live, this dog was very confused about all the water and a little bit nervous about jumping into this big puddle. Now, one of my favorite nights on the kibbutz was during the celebration of Purim. Purim is a Jewish holiday that commemorates the deliverance of the Jewish people in the ancient Persian Empire from destruction in the wake of a plot by Haman, a story recorded in the biblical book of Esther. Now, Purim was an exceptionally exciting time for me because it was a chance for me to see how the people of the kibbutz, who are almost all Jewish, got to celebrate their religion. Everyone danced and dressed up in funny costumes. But we didn't always need a Jewish holiday to be able to celebrate or have fun. I often found myself just hanging out with friends, having a good conversation, learning something about environmental studies, or maybe just chatting about our different lives, and who knows, maybe playing a little dress up at the same time. Now, most of what we read about in the news about Israel, Palestine, or the Middle East is all bad. There are stories about conflict, terrorists, disagreements, bombs. But while living on the kibbutz and studying at the Arava Institute, I was able to experience this area in a way that would have otherwise been impossible. It was only in the middle of a desert, 50 miles away from the nearest city, that I found myself in a position to be able to create relationships, make friends, and learn about others' ways of life. I'll never forget my time on the kibbutz. It was truly remarkable and forever changed my perspective on what it means to be able to live in peace with others while working for a greater cause. Now, if you remember back to my previous slide, my favorite Hebrew word was shalom, which means hello, goodbye, and peace. So I leave you with that word. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Shalom!